Hey, Em, how are you doing, girl? It's your dad, Miguel. So pleased to be here today. Thank you for clicking the link and deciding to spend some time with me. Right now, it is the 29th of July, 2019, and I want to welcome you into my living room. Sort of, kind of, in a way, to some extent. You're in my home to some extent, or I'm in your home. I'm not sure how that works out, but it's the magic of the internet, and through the magic of technology, I'm here, like Aladdin and his three wishes. Behold, your father is in front of you immediately. Isn't it great that the electronic revolution, the information age, has made this possible? So I I had a really great weekend last weekend. I mean, phenomenally great. I mean, super duper phenomenally great. There's so many things that happened last weekend that um, I I'm at a loss for words about 50% of what happened. Well, it was really great. So you might ask, well, what did you do? Well, last Friday I went to this home concert at a friend's home of mine near Ojai. I think the city is called Oakview or something like that. I forget the precise name of. I guess it's a suburb outside of Ojai. Well, my friend, he rents a home or I think some sort of space out there, and it's this beautiful home. It's picture perfect. It's in a canyon, and it's very three dimensional in the sense that there are hills close by and hills far away, and it's just super duper gorgeous around this place. Well, I didn't tell you the reason why I went. I went to a home concert where a few bands were playing, and or a few acts, I think. And the most notable was the Brothers Corin. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard of this group. I hadn't heard of it. Apparently, they're worldwide famous, and I um, I just hadn't heard of them before. But they are a duo, a singing duo, where one of them plays guitar, and they've got, I guess, a number of acoustic songs, and they played some of them at least at this concert at my friend's home. It was fantabulous. I really enjoyed the whole experience. It was great. There were just a few people who could show up because the space was so small. I would guess maybe 45 people total showed up, and that's because the space could only hold that number of people. And it was great. There was like a potluck where people brought food, and you know, I actually didn't eat any food while I was there. I had eaten dinner already, gotten my fill of calories, so I was good. But there were a lot of my friends there. I say I probably knew 10 people there, maybe even as high as 15 people there. Well, maybe not 15, but certainly 10 people. And of course, I met a whole lot of other new people as I introduced myself to them. And it was just a blast. I really had a great time. So nice to get together with friends and enjoy good music in a wonderful setting. Really, just a choice and beautiful setting. The patio had like this cool infinity pool in it, and it was just so gorgeous. The grounds were just so beautifully manicured, or I should say designed. Yeah, and everyone was just so gracious and happy to be there. And I love just sort of picking up on conversations with old friends, talking about what I know that they're interested in, and they're talking about what they know that I'm interested in. And It was just a lot of fun. And of course, the music was great. And it wasn't just one band. I hate to use the word band, but it was sort of like an act, sort of. My friend plays the guitar, and he played a little bit, a couple songs. I have another friend in another act. I guess maybe an a cappella act. Um, Although there were some instruments being played at the time while they were singing. Vocabella, and that's a music group that honestly I hadn't heard of before. I learned so many new things going to events around me and hanging out with people, friends that I know. And it was just great. All around, it was a great time. And the concert location was only like 40 minutes outside of Santa Barbara. And I don't know, it was just great. All around an ideal evening. Truly ideal. And then after that, I headed down to, just to Thousand Oaks, which was a place where I spent the night before I went to Nonviolent Communication Retreat in Long Beach, California. So I did that on Saturday. So I had an activity on Friday night, an activity on Saturday, and I'm going to get to it, an activity on Sunday. So yeah, I went to this all-day nonviolent communication retreat with like 30 of my friends, and it was just fun. I was about to say hilarious. It was also hilarious, but it was totally fun, totally wonderful to meet up with all these people who are really just, their level of emotional intelligence is very, very high, and their ability to communicate is very high. These are people who continuously work on their communication skills, and they continuously work on how to cope with, sort of the challenges of everyday life. And they're definitely interested in communication and relationships and connection and teaching and learning. And so these people have a lot in common with me. And it was just really great to touch base and enjoy their company and have conversations with them all day long. And, just learn from everything that they had to say. I walked away from that one day retreat with more information probably than from even a week-long retreat. Oh yeah, there was just so much good information being expressed and touched on that, boy, I'm still sifting through the information. It's been like 2 or 3 days later. I'm still sifting through the information and trying to get my hands around it, get a handle on the information so I can use it in my everyday life. I did even today buy some books that were recommended by the people I was talking to in conversation. So good stuff. There's still more to learn, more to understand about my meaning and my purpose and how to survive and thrive in our social environment with both platonic and romantic relationships. So I'm really, really stoked about all that I was learning and all that I'm going to continue to learn as I sort of dwell and rehash, some of the ideas presented at that group, at that, between the people at that group. And that was all day long. I also had an opportunity to swim in a swimming pool, which was fun, playing swimming pool games. Yeah, I've got a lot of wonderful memories about swimming in the swimming pool and splashing in the hot tub. Maybe I should say splashing in the hot tub. Well, I don't know. I don't know. I was in the swimming pool and the hot tub in series. So that was fun. I ate like 3 or 4 chocolate chip cookies, which, bonus, was a fantastic experience. Any kind of event, a reunion or gathering is improved if you're able to eat some really great chocolate chip cookies while there. I can vouch for the fact of that. For that fact, that's for sure. So that was Saturday. And then Sunday, I headed back to Santa Barbara, where I enjoyed dancing at Dance Tribe Sunday morning. Yeah, for 2 hours, which was pretty normal. And just enjoyed the whole event. Kiora Fox, a friend of mine who was DJing that day. And so I got to hear what music was on her mind, and got to learn a little bit more about her DJing technique because I spoke to her about it. I complimented her on her set and let her know just how much I enjoyed her, what I'd call rhythmic, groovy style. That's the kind of music she plays when she DJs. And then, if that were not enough, which would be enough for any regular person, after Dance Tribe, I went to a friend of mine, Kimmy Van Dyke's pink picnic party at a park, the big Alice Keck Park in Santa Barbara, also called Alameda Park. And just had a fantastic time meeting all kinds of people there. There are people there from like the Summer Solstice Parade, from Bike the Lights, people there from Dance Tribe. In fact, Kiora Fox was there, the DJ that I had been dancing to for 2 hours prior to the picnic. And we just had a blast. We saw bikes, art bikes that were manufactured by a friend of ours. His name is Dusty. And these are bikes that he's created on commission. He's going to be transporting them to Burning Man this season. They're going to be at the Burning Man celebration. Burning Man, I think, is in mid-August this year. And if I don't have enough fun already, which clearly I do, I'm having fun every single day. I've also signed up. Speaking of Burning Man, I've also signed up to order Burning Man tickets. Now, there's no guarantee that I will receive these tickets because there is always an undersupply of tickets and an oversupply of people willing to buy them. So I don't have my hopes up, really. I would love to go to Burning Man this year, but I don't have to go to Burning Man this year. I'm always, like I mentioned, I've always got stuff going on. So, in fact, if I do decide to go to Burning Man this year, I will have to miss exactly 1 week my photography class at Allen Hancock College, and I'm not necessarily keen on doing that. I would much rather, I would certainly love to go to Burning Man, and I would go to the Burning Man if I had tickets. But I will be seriously regretting missing 2 of my photography classes. Yeah, so hopefully I can recover okay from that academically. But yeah, but I'll be 4 months. I'll be spending 4 months in that photography class, so I'll have plenty of time to recover whatever losses I receive from missing my photography classes for Burning Man. I think it might be a fine sacrifice. Despite how much I love my Allen Hancock College classes, I think I could probably lose 2 classes this year because I've chosen to go to Burning Man instead. We'll see how it goes. I'm not even going to talk a lot about Burning Man because the chances that I'll get a ticket is, in my mind, fairly remote, but possible. It's not outside the realm of possibility. I'm also not trying very hard. There are ways to try very hard to get tickets to Burning Man, and I'm not trying any of those ways. Why? I don't know. For me, there's a certain benefit in ease related to picking up some tickets for that. Okay, so wow. So there we go. There's my fantastic weekend. This weekend, now my weekends are usually a lot of fun and involve a lot of enjoyment through travel and speaking with people and learning new things, going to art museums or music events. But I'll tell you what, this last weekend has got to be near the top in terms of how much I enjoyed it. I mean, I did all the things that I love to do. For all day Saturday, I communed with people who I had a common purpose with, people who I feel like I belong with, my tribe, so to speak. People who are interested in self-development and communication. Right? I did that all day Saturday. And then I was in an unscripted picnic party where there was music involved, and I got to meet lots of new people on Sunday. And Sunday morning, I got to dance for 2 hours. Yeah, and then Friday night, I got to listen to music and hang out with my friends again. So, if there is any day in my life history that goes down in the annals of history, I'm pretty certain that last weekend would have to be one of my red letter days. Yeah, absolutely. Why? Like I mentioned, it involved pretty much all the things that I live and breathe for, and that's having conversations with people that I want to be around, and listening to music and dancing to music, and I don't know, engaging fully in personal growth and learning. I mean, what else is there? For me, that basically ticks the boxes of all of my uh, purpose, all in terms of my own sense of personal purpose and meaning, significance, importance. What I did last weekend was it. Yeah, and it left very little out in terms of things that I find meaningful and important. So super happy about that. Let's do it again next weekend. That's what I say. So next weekend is an interesting weekend. Next weekend is the Lompoc Triathlon. I know. And what does that mean? Well, that there's an opportunity to do a sprint triathlon this Saturday. Now, it's already Monday night. And I actually did buy quickly from Amazon a triathlon suit. Now, I want to do a triathlon soon, maybe even this year. And I don't have to do it on Saturday, but if I've got the suit, I might as well give it a try. But there is still one missing ingredient. So I don't have a bicycle. I don't have a bike. So that might cramp my style a little bit. It's kind of hard to do a triathlon without having a bicycle, a road bike in particular. And so, there are a few options I can do. I can rent a bike from somewhere, and I've got an idea about where to rent it. I think I could rent a bike, or I could quickly buy a bike. Just run to the store, grab a bike, and then come back. Or I could buy a used bike on Craigslist or something like that, or using Facebook Marketplace. I don't know. Here's the thing about me. While I acknowledge the importance of bicycle riding, and I bicycle ride every week at the gym because I recognize that importance, just from a social, practical standpoint, knowing how to ride a bike is important, and having the physical fitness to ride a bike is important. And, having a body, for me, that's about, functional fitness, being able to ride a bike for a long period of time. So, it's important. But the fact is, I don't own a bike. I actually don't physically own a bicycle of any kind. I used to have a BMX bike, and I had at one time a road bike. I don't think I've ever owned a mountain bike. But here's the thing. While I think that being a bicycle rider is, important socially, and I train for it physically, I don't actually own a bike because for me, riding a bike's not that important. Now, I admit I could be mistaken. This could be a glaring hole in my background, not owning a bike. And I agree, it's kind of a faux pas, a social faux pas, not to own a bicycle. I actually did own bicycles. I owned at least 2 bikes. And something happened. I wanted to get rid of my bikes for some reason. And so I got rid of my bikes in 2 ways. Like I mentioned, I had a BMX bike and I had a road bike. And this is how I got rid of these 2 bikes. I got rid of them. I got rid of my BMX bike by having I struck up a conversation with a father who had a child who had recently had their bike stolen. And then instantly, when I heard that, I volunteered to donate my bike to the child who had lost their bike. I told the father immediately, I said, hey, I've got a bike, a BMX bike, a very good BMX bike, and your child can have it if he wants it. And by the way, this BMX bike was cream of the crop, primo, beautiful bike. Beautiful yellow bike. It was gorgeous. I mean, just a beautiful BMX bike. There was a reason I wanted to get rid of it for some reason. I forget what it was. Anyway, I feel good about having gotten rid of it. I think I wasn't riding the BMX bike very much. And I needed the space in my 1-bedroom apartment I needed to clear it out for some reason or other. Anyway, I felt really good about giving that bike away to that kid who lost their bike. They got an awesome bike, by the way. Just a beautiful bike, just cool. Oh my gosh, beautiful BMX bike. Anyway, and then I had this other road bike, and I didn't quite know what to do with it. I asked around, see if I could give it away to anybody. Nobody really wanted it. So guess what I did? I just took the bike and I set it outside of our apartment complex in the patio, unlocked against the wall for 24 hours. I guess I just did it overnight. It was just overnight. And the bike was stolen that night. So I just left the bike out and it got stolen like within 12 hours. What's that all about? There's something about Lompoc and people stealing bikes. I don't get it. I don't know. I've actually that's not the first bike I've had stolen. That bike, by the way, was kind of stolen. I wanted it to get taken away. I wanted it to be stolen. So I was intentionally irresponsible with it. Now, when I was a boy, like, how old was I? I was like 15 years old, 14 years old. I think I was about 15 years old. My bike was stolen. Oh my gosh, I love that bike. It was was it my Diamondback? My red Diamondback bike. I can't believe it was stolen. This bike had so much sentimental value. I loved it to death. I had it for years, maybe like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. And I love that bike. And it was stolen from me. Man, I was like 15 years old. I was living at 99 Calle Playa del Sol in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I remember what happened too. It was an apartment complex, and I was bicycling probably with my brother, and we just we were done for the day with our bicycle riding, And instead of locking up my bike in the garage or putting it inside the house, I just left it out in the patio outside the main door. Now there was like this aisleway it wasn't fenced in by a fixed fence, but you sort of had to walk into the entrance of our home, not inside, but inside the courtyard to grab the bicycle, and someone did. They stole my bike. I was about 15 years old, and I was upset about it. I mean, upset as in like sad and angry about it. I'm 15 years old, man. Of course I'm going to be upset. Someone stole my bike. And so what I did was me and my brother, we walked around the neighborhood looking for bikes similar to mine. And in fact, there was one similar to mine, but I didn't have the guts to knock on the door and say, "Hey, I think that's my bike." I couldn't really tell. Like I didn't have my name on it or anything like that. It just seemed to look a lot like my bike. Anyway, I let it go. I was, however, I was 15 years old, so I had some level of maturity there. I could endure the loss of my bike. But really, ever since then, I've sort of been bike neutral. Even though I love my bike growing up. And, I don't think it was necessarily the fact that my bike was stolen, which sort of triggered me to think of all bike riding as being not important. I don't think it was exactly that single event, but I have a feeling it might have influenced it. Now, I don't know how, because I have bought bikes in the past, but here's the thing. With the bikes that I've bought in the past, I just haven't really ridden them a lot. Anyway, speaking of bikes, I might very well just buy a bike. So I was thinking, okay, if I'm going to buy a bike, I want to find some way to store it in a reliable, economic way. And I want to get a bike rack on my car. And there is, like, what do they call them? Trailer hitches, a trailer hitch receiver. Like, I don't have one on the back of my minivan. And so I've been thinking that I can buy like a sort of an aftermarket receiver hitch and install it myself on my own Toyota Sienna minivan. So I'm like, oh yeah, let's do that. So I went to a youtube.com video, and that video explained how I could install the receiver hitch. So I think I'm going to be somewhat inspired, because I've got some experience working on cars, and from the looks of it, it seems like this is not going to be much of a challenge. Like I'm not going to have any trouble. I could probably pick up this receiving trailer hitch for like 135 bucks. And then I'm guessing that with a little bit of time underneath my car, I will be able to install it probably in about 30 minutes to an hour. That's if I can get the bolts unscrewed. you know, I got an old car. It's a 1999 Toyota Sienna minivan. And so basically, it's exactly 20 years old. And a car with that, particularly the underside, has a tendency to get some corrosion on it. And so I'm thinking to myself, well, in order to install that trailer hitch, I've got to remove some bolts. I think I have to remove 6 bolts total. So that means I'm going to have to get some kind of wrench, maybe a backup wrench. I might have to get an extension or like an extension socket. But I think it's a job that I can do by myself, and I won't have to rely on, say, the dealership or anyone else to install it. So, yeah, I got to go do a little visual inspection underneath my car to see if I can find the nuts and bolts I need to install this trailer hitch idea. Install this trailer hitch. We'll see where this idea goes. Of course, I'm not going to be able to install the trailer hitch before the triathlon here in Lompoc this coming Saturday. So anyway, I'm still up in the air about whether to buy a bike or rent one. I just don't know. And I'm also under like I still haven't decided whether I'm actually going to do this upcoming triathlon or not. I could very well do it. And I'm thinking that if I did want to do it, then I would have to do a running workout today. So Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night. Yeah. Yeah. So I would do a running workout tomorrow, and then Wednesday do a swimming workout, and then I'd be cleared. I'd be ready to go to. I'd be ready to do the triathlon. I actually am planning to drive to Santa Barbara tomorrow night, and so I could go to play a place like Hazards Cycle Sports or something and pick up a bike there in Santa Barbara. I think that's in Goleta. So that's totally cool. I honestly don't know if I can pull it off, but the cost to sign up for that triathlon is only $50. So I don't know. Maybe I should wait a little longer. I don't really want to hurt my feet or anything, hurt my legs or knees or anything while I'm doing the triathlon. I don't want to rush anything necessarily. But it is a good motivation, a good motivator to buy a bicycle and get that trailer hitch installed. Yeah. So one thing I've been doing lately when I've gotten home from work is playing on my iPad Pro and doing my to-do lists items, checking them. And, I'm really liking that. I'm able to play some music in the background while I am checking off my to-do list items. I actually find doing my to-do list a pretty relaxing pastime. I find it quite enjoyable, something that is as enjoyable as surfing the internet, something is as, or actually more enjoyable than watching television, something that's as interesting as watching YouTube videos. So I'm really glad that this is beginning to pass or becoming a reality. And that is me spending a lot of time doing planning and organizing and strategizing using my iPad Pro. Finally, all the tools are coming together in order to organize my life and to do to-do lists. I use Google Keep, and then I use Google Calendar. And if I want to write something down, I'll use Notability. No, not Notability. I'll use the other app. What's it called? Let's see if I can find it. Goodreads. No, not Goodreads. It's called GoodNotes. Yeah, I use GoodNotes. And let me tell you, spending extra time during my day planning is like worth its weight in gold. It's so nice to enjoy the process of planning, enjoy the process of putting to-do lists together, putting my calendar together, putting notes together. It's really a really enjoyable pastime. So for me, it's kind of interesting to think that to-do lists and doing to-do lists has become a pastime for me. And this is a really exciting eventuality. I mean, this is a really exciting outcome. I'm going to be making so much progress in the coming years if I can just keep it up. Thankfully, my iPad Pro makes it all easy. There's something about the Microsoft operating system that it just does not seem as clean and effective as using the iPad Pro. I have a 2-in-1 computer where a computer can sort of be converted from a laptop into a tablet computer. Yeah. So, if anyone has the ability to sort of enjoy their computer working experience, it's me, because I've got both Microsoft OS and iPad OS. Actually, I should say iOS. The iPad OS has not been released yet. I am really excited about that piece of software being released by Apple, as ought to you be excited about it, because it'll essentially just turn your tablet computer into more like a regular laptop. I think that software, the iPad OS, won't be released until the end of the year. I'm guessing that it's like a November, December release. But the iPad OS could come out like as early as next month. Who knows? I don't know how much excitement has been generated behind this announcement of a release of this software, but I'll tell you what, I'll be definitely looking forward to it, because let me tell you, while I like tablet computers, sometimes I do feel inhibited by them. Not very much. Turns out a lot of my computing is like word processing or note taking or to-do lists or calendaring or email. And a lot of it is that. And a lot of it is Facebook. So I don't really do a lot of like high-end professional computer work when I'm away from work. I'm just having fun on Instagram and Pinterest, and Twitter, and Facebook, and then iTunes and Google Keep and Google Calendar and Reddit. I don't do any high-powered computer work, computer processing at home, except, you know what? I see a time in the future when I might use, say, Adobe's Creative Cloud Suite to use Photoshop. Let me tell you, I have tried to come up with some kind of design software that allows me to manipulate my photographs in a way that's free or nearly free, and doggone it, I've just not figured out a way to do it. So there is a real possibility that after I take this camera class, this class in photography, that maybe I will buy a subscription to Adobe's Creative Cloud so that I can work on the latest Photoshop software. It is indeed possible. Is it likely? I actually don't think it's really likely because I've got there's a lot of good freeware out there. There's a lot of good freeware out there that helps you manage and manipulate your photos. Really all I need to do is crop the photo, soup up the brightness, and maybe increase the vibrance a little bit. That's really all I need to do. And pretty much all free software has that capability. Like if any software that's worth its salt exists, I know that photo editing software will have a crop function. Because I don't know about you, but for me, crop is super important. It's really important to sort of fix the subject and to make sure that there's as little distraction as possible. Anyway, that's my photography style. I try to make sure that the audience is very clear on who the main character is in the photograph and and I try to make sure that there are no distractions around in the photograph that might take away from the actual emotional content of the photo. So that was a great weekend I had last weekend. Now, there was one respect in which my weekend was not that great. And I'll tell you right off, it has to do with diet. Now, I pride myself on having a lot of discipline as it relates to diet, and I'm always sort of tweaking and improving things. And I'm improving things in ways that one wouldn't necessarily expect. For example, I've been a vegan for like 2 or 3 years, and I love being vegan and trying to eat vegan. Veganism is my heart, is what it is. That's where I want to be most of the time, and if I can make it happen, that's where I want to be all the time. Right. But let me tell you, sometimes questions of practicality rear its ugly head. Um, Sometimes it's quite impractical to be vegan. Uh, I find that it's a problem when I have difficulty controlling the food at an outing or some kind of event that I'm at. If I can't control the menu, then I pretty much just have learned to give up. Because it's a real challenge. Um, Although, let me tell you something that's really had a marked improvement on ease when it comes to me trying to eat vegan. Um, Last night, I guess today's Monday. So last night, which was Sunday, I had for dinner a vegan pizza that I ordered at Rusty's Pizza in Santa Barbara. I know, I know. How did you do that, Miguel? Because pizzas have cheese on them. Well, I'll tell you what I did. I literally told the person at the counter who took my order to. I ordered a veggie delight pizza um, with no cheese. I know that's the very first time that I've ever ordered a pizza with no cheese, and the clerk uh, took my order and put it up for the chefs to perform, and I paid, and in just a few minutes, I got my pizza with no cheese. I have never ordered a pizza with no cheese, and in the past, I've always considered it to be somewhat of a laughable thing to do. And so what that meant was that the only pizza that I've had in years, because I've been a vegan for so long, the only pizza I've had in years has been pizzas that I make myself from scratch, with crust from scratch, and I'll put like a non-dairy cheese on there, like a soy cheese or something. So I've only had homemade pizza. Now let me tell you something about homemade pizza. It's not the easiest to calorie count. It just isn't. So I actually had to come up with, when I was making my own pizza and calorie counting, I had to come up with my own method, very sophisticated method for calorie counting the pizza. And that involved things like weighing the dough, weighing the before and after weight after the dough was cooked. Uh, I made the pizza in two phases. First was the dough, and then was the topping. Anyway, um, it was kind of a challenge. It took some thought to make my totally vegan pizza. It certainly would have been easier if I was vegetarian and could eat dairy. But anyway, that's the whole point of it, I guess. Trying to do the right thing. And anyway, I was pretty excited about literally ordering a pizza with no cheese. To me, that's a big deal because I love pizza. Pizza is one of the foods that I crave to eat as a vegan. In fact, I'll tell you what the two foods I crave to eat with as a vegan. Number one, burritos. Man, I want burritos so bad. And two, pizza. Those are definitely my two favorite foods, or my two favorite non-vegan foods: burritos and pizza. Oh my gosh, I'm starting to get tired. My body is telling me it's time to go to sleep, and indeed, it's correct. I wonder if I'll be able to hang on for like 10 minutes or so before I turn in for the night. But I was so happy to order that pizza with no cheese. Dang, I'm making so much progress. You know, based on what I've learned recently, I think I there is a chance that I might transition back to veganism. Like I mentioned, only about a week ago or less, I decided to be a vegetarian who could eat dairy. Low fat dairy, or actually fat free dairy. That's the qualification on the vegetarianism, the fat free dairy. And I'll tell you precisely why. Turns out that if you eat more than 25 grams of fat a day, I did not know this until very recently, that you actually create a state of insulin resistance in your body. I'm not making this up. Turns out that scientists who perform clinical studies, they increase insulin resistance in animals by feeding them a high fat diet. And I think the same has been shown to be true in human beings. That is, versus lab animals. And this is consistent with the myocellular theory of insulin resistance, myocellular lipid theory of insulin resistance. So, anyway, so that's the reason my dairy is fat free. Believe it, so I'm so happy to know that dairy is available in fat free form. Now, it's kind of funny. I did look for some cream cheese that was available in fat free form, and eventually I did find some. But apparently, fat free cream cheese is not a thing anymore. Certainly not like it used to be in the 1990s. So, like I said earlier, this whole vegetarian experiment may not last very long. I mean, I, in fact, I truly feel better to eat vegan, not just, not just because it's practical, because I feel better. And it's not just, and I don't, and here's the thing, I just also want to qualify this feel better idea. There are two ways to feel better. You can feel better in the body and you can feel better in the mind. And for me, fact is, feeling better in the body it's only slightly better. Only slightly better. Like on a scale from 1 to 10 in terms of variation, where there's 10 is a lot of change, a lot of improvement, and when I eat vegan, and 1 is like very little improvement. The answer is 1. I can barely, for me, every once in a while, I barely detect how my diet makes me feel. But there's another aspect about diet, and that's just my psychology. The psychology of being a vegan is something I really appreciate. For me, it's a way to honor all living things. It's a way to um, preserve and protect animal rights, animal welfare. That is important to me. Now, it's not super duper important to me, but it is, it is a consideration. I do want to live my life on this planet in a way that has a soft impact. And now also, there's another thing. While I have been enjoying some dairy lately, and the reason I'm allowing myself to eat dairy is because I'm basically a vegan because for health reasons. not necessarily for ethical reasons. Although I am finding that being a vegan for ethical reasons is becoming more and more important to me. My primary focus is in maintaining and improving my physical health. And one thing, since I've started eating a little bit of dairy here and there, that I haven't checked is how the dairy is going to be affecting my health. I don't know. We'll see. I've got to eat dairy for like a month or two or three, and then get a blood test and see what the blood test looks like. I know dairy is typically tends to be insulinergic. I also know that dairy it tends to be higher protein, which sometimes throws off calcium balance in your body. I know that certainly dairy has saturated fat and cholesterol. And even though I try to mitigate that problem by eating fat-free dairy, dairy still has cholesterol in it. Maybe 10 milligrams a serving or something like that or less. So we'll see. Well, we'll see what the blood test results show. When is my next scheduled blood test result? I don't know. Maybe in about a month or so. So we'll see. We'll make a little comparison. Every once in a while, you've got to do these exercises. It's just an exercise and an experiment. If I add a little bit of dairy to my diet, a little bit of fat-free dairy to my diet, what does that do to my health numbers? We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens if our triglycerides shoot up, or HCl, or who knows? Who knows? We'll see. Anyway, here I am taking another tired video. It's kind of funny. When I first started making these videos, I made videos in the morning time. And what's kind of funny is that every morning I felt kind of groggy doing this video presentation. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll move it to the evenings. And you know what? I really like doing these videos in the evening, but I'm also quite tired when I do these videos. So I'm also yawning in the evening videos. So one of these days I might find a solution. Perhaps I'll be able to do these videos at noontime or something like that, where being fatigued or tired is not even a factor. Yeah. So anyway, that's what's been on my mind lately. I'll probably end up driving to Santa Barbara tomorrow to meet with some friends and have some conversation again. It's going to be another picnic tomorrow. And I will consider doing the triathlon this weekend on Saturday. We will see. I don't know. I'm really kind of up in the air about it. I could do it just as an experiment. All I really need is a road bike. Maybe I can borrow a friend's road bike. See, here's the thing. One of the things that's important to me when it comes to bikes is fit. Because when you're on a bicycle for an hour, fit becomes a problem. The ergonomics is king when you're on a bicycle. And now that I think about it, being on a bicycle for an hour, like riding 13 miles on my bike, I mean, I could do that in the gym. That's easy because the seat is a very highly cushioned seat. But even if I buy a bicycle, say tomorrow, I'm probably not going to be able to endure an hour on the saddle of that bicycle with my fresh bottom. I mean, I guess I could give that a try, but that sounds like an unnecessary risk. Unless I somehow find a way to get a road bike with a really cushy seat. I don't know. Now, just after that consideration, the consideration of the seat of the bike, I mean, even if I have a new bike, let me tell you, there's something about
bike seats. For men, that is a challenge. It might be a challenge for women too, but let me tell you, for a man, I definitely have to think twice about riding a bicycle for a long period of time. Because, I'll tell you what, the seats on bicycles tend to be pretty hard. And if I'm going to be spending an hour on that bike, I know I'm going to be wrecking myself. So maybe, maybe the bike seat all by itself is a reason not to do the triathlon this coming Saturday. Even though I could do it. I mean, I'm fit enough to do all three sports with much margin. For example, my running, I think the sprint triathlon is a 5K race, which is only like 3.1 miles. I routinely run 5 miles. I mean, that's just an indicator of how fit I am. I probably could do twice the triathlon distance if I wanted. Like I could probably do well, maybe not an Olympic triathlon, but I could do a triathlon longer than just a 5K sprint or longer than a sprint triathlon. So, but now that I think about it, that seat problem is a pretty serious problem. I might want to sort of ease into riding a bike for an hour. Yeah. So what that tells me is just that seat problem alone is really sufficient to dissuade me from doing a triathlon this Saturday. Oh well, that's fine because it'll give me time to prepare for reals to do a triathlon. I would like to actually do a few triathlons off the clock, so to speak. Outside of competition first before I do a real triathlon. Don't you think that sounds like a good idea? Oh yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Well, Emily, I hope you have a wonderful week. I know that your sophomore year of high school is going to start up in about 2 weeks. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but your summer vacation is almost over. I hope you have a fantastic remainder of your summer vacation, and I want you to know that I'm continuously thinking about you, continuously thinking about ways that I can support you, ways that I can be generous, ways that I can be more accepting, ways that I can improve the emotional and intellectual connection between us. I want you to know that I'm 100% committed to our relationship, and that I'm here for the long haul. I'm here not just for support or generosity, but I'm also here just to be a presence in your life. Even if I'm not doing anything directly or explicitly, I want you to know that my intention is always positive, and that occasionally I know I might make a mistake with a text message or a letter or a turn of phrase or something. I want you to know that it's unintentional, that my interest is only to be a positive influence in your life. And my standards are actually quite high in that regard. So I hope you like I said, I hope you're doing wonderful, and I'll talk to you later, huh? Bye-bye, girl. Love you.